Oh, hello. Do you want to hear a story? Well, okay then. Once upon a time, in an off-sales or liquor store near you, stood a dusty, old, non-age stated whiskey. Hello and welcome back to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me. As always, this is review number 106, part 5 of a series in which I'm looking at some non-age statements. But before we move on, it's time. Let's make time, shall we, if you don't mind, for a little barefaced, shameless even, will we say, self-promotion. Yes. If you're new to the whiskey world, well, I mean, in this world, it's not just the whiskey world that does this, but we have a thing. We have a thing for capping our glass, for keeping that odour in there where you want it to be before you get your nose into it, and it is the whiskey coin. And this is mine. And it is now available. The Whiskey Novice whiskey coin, the little red fella there, and the little darker, the black side on it there, with "Here's to your good health." So that is the Whiskey Novice coin, now available. If you would like to get your hands on one of them, there's all my social media and email address and all are in the details below. Just reach out some way or another, and I will certainly hook you up with one of my coins, as they say in the business. Yes, there you are. Shameless, barefaced, I was nearly going to say gratification there, but that's something else entirely. Aside, let's get back to the whiskey, shall we? This time, another non-age statement, Tomatin Legacy. A whiskey that I've noticed, to say gets chatted about a bit, an awful lot of people like this. As in, it's a good start. So, what have we got? Well, Tomatin there, a Highland distillery, right? Just south of Inverness, owned by the Dualchas Corporation. Just rolls off the tongue. And I visited it recently, I have to say. Lovely tour, lovely distillery, lovely people. So what we've got here is their entry level, very much so, entry level bottle of 43%, colour added, chill filtered. There it is. Comes in around the 20 to 30 pounds mark. It's usually around the middling of that, you know, so it's a 20, it could even probably go higher than that. I certainly wouldn't want to be paying any more than 30 pounds for it, but, you know. So let's get into it. This is, if you're in America, this is the Dualchas. It's exactly the same stuff. Just they call it a different name. Now the other thing about it is, I recently reviewed the Virgin Oak, Deanston Virgin Oak, and this actually came up in the chat a little, and I understand why, because technically the maturation's much the same. It's a non-age statement. It's a young whiskey, but it's that ex-bourbon cask once again, and Virgin Oak, then a Virgin Oak finish. So I think a few people were surprised I didn't mention this one. Well, there's a reason why I didn't mention this, because to me this doesn't act like a Virgin Oak cask whiskey. That's why. It's there, okay, yes it is, but there's other stuff. To me it borrows more of the ex-bourbon cask. Soft, sweet. They suggest pineapple and lemon on the bottle, and I'm going to allow it on this occasion because I agree. Pineapple and lemon. Custard powder. So there's your ex-bourbon cask for me, that vanilla custardy powder. But I suppose the Virgin Oak's pulling that up a wee hair as well. There are some light, almost synthetic floral notes. Definitely the vanilla plays around. The virgin oak is there. There is that peppery, gingery thing, but I think it does tend to borrow more from the ex-bourbon. Now, this is an entry-level, relatively cheap whiskey. Give this too much thought, spend too much time on it, and you start to discover that, yeah, it's young, yeah, it's sharp, it's slightly spirity. You start to find hints of acid drops. I'm finding a hint of wallpaper paste. So you start to then, and I think it's, if you take your time over it and dig around in it, you start to find notes that you would rather you didn't, rather you hadn't. So I think it's a case of treat it as it is. A non-age statement, relatively young whiskey, and you'll get the best out of it. Soft, sweet and sour arrival. So that's soft again. You know, it's actually quite well rounded. There's the flavour is there. There is a little bit of grip. There is a little bit of heft. It does coat reasonably well for a cheap whiskey. It's slightly hot, which I would sometimes tie in with a young whiskey once again, but not too bad. It's fresh. It's slightly citrusy. There's a hint of honey. There's a hint of fresh, sweet, freshly cut grass. There's a hint of barley sugar. You know, for what it is, there's a multi hint. It ain't bad, I think. It's quite creamy. Yeah, the vanilla is there again. Finish. Yeah, it's sort of medium to short. Still sweet. Tails off slightly with a slight bitterness. Honestly, I'm not going to add water to it. I did so when I was doing my tasting notes. It just thinned it too much. It's only 43%. It is what it says on the tin. It's a non-age statement. Relatively young whiskey. Granted, bottled to 43%. I'll give Tomatin that. Probably if this was brought down to 40%, you know, that difference would make all the difference to the flavour. At the price, I would recommend everybody have one in their cabinet. And when people come around or someone comes into your home who's not a big fan of whiskey, actually, here's another one. If somebody comes into your home and certainly in my experience, no, I don't like Scotch whiskey. They tend to have that this preconception that it's going to be smoky, it's going to be peaty. They don't like that thing. Understandable. Offer something like this to them, and you'll change their mind on Scotch whiskey, because one, it's affordable. Two, it's by no means smoky. And three, it's just easy to drink. So that would be my recommendation. Have one in your cabinet to offer up, that it's not costing you a fortune to replace. You don't mind bringing it out at parties for people to drink, at gatherings. People can sip away at it. It's an easy sipper, but it's still an enjoyable, easy sipper. So there you go. There you have it. Let's. Yes. No. Yeah, it is an easy drinker. If you like this, I'm going to move on down the A9 in Scotland. If this is getting close to the top of the A9, getting closer to N.A.S, what I'm going to suggest to you is getting closer to the bottom of the A9 in Scotland there. and it's this, the Tullibardine Sovereign. I was actually going, and yet again, all singing, you know, in the same hymn book, 43%, chill filtered, colour added. So they're, you know, on paper, relatively similar. I think this is just bourbon. Yeah, this is mature next bourbon casks. But still worth a pickup in my opinion, because it comes in yet again around that 20 to 30 pounds mark. This, to me, takes that slight bitter edge off that this one would have. But certainly, once again, a worthwhile pickup if you see it at the right price. I was actually going to review this whiskey as part of this series because it's an honest statement, but for the meantime, I won't. I'm just going to suggest to you that if you like Tomatin Legacy and you see it, pick yourself up a bottle of Tullibardine Sovereign. Go. Yeah, look, as I said earlier, grab yourself a bottle of Tomatin. It's call it Dualchas, call it Legacy. Just have it in your collection, have it in your cabinet for folk coming around. That would be my suggestion for this whiskey. That's that. So I shall leave it. Say thank you for joining me. I will say thank you very, very, very much to my patrons. If you wish to join that group, the details, as well as the old coin there that I was talking about earlier, are below. I'll leave you with that and say, here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.